Obviously, as you guys can see, I am alone on this couch. Brooke is not here with us today, and I want to be abundantly clear that that was my decision.
A surprising turn of events this week, and something we did not see coming, was Tana Mongeau taking to the canceled podcast couch solo. Tana wasn't sans Brooke because of an appointment or a sick day, but due to leaks of old racist tweets from Brooke that have resurfaced. We were eagerly waiting to cover the story until the new episode of the canceled podcast came out. What we were not expecting was for Brooke to not be there at all. Let's talk about the new cancellation of Brooke Schofield. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Before we get into today's tea, don't forget to subscribe to the Hot Tea channel if you haven't already, and leave this video a thumbs up. As always, comment your thoughts and feelings and the situation down below. Let's get into it. Certainly by now, most of you guys are aware that some truly disgusting tweets have turned up in every corner of the internet, posted by none other than Brooke Schofield back when she was about 18 or 19 years old. Just in case you haven't seen these, I'm gonna put them on the screen now. You can pause to read it if you like. As you can see, there is a plethora of racist, homophobic, fatphobic, and simply disturbing tweets here, in addition to some questionable political takes. While normally we have to wait a beat for any response from YouTubers and influencers when something like this happens, Brooke was rather quick to serve up an apology, or rather, an explanation for this.
Those are real tweets, like real things that I said. They're wrong, they're horrible, and they're disgusting. My parents were addicts, so I was adopted by my grandparents when I was like 10. They're a little bit less progressive than a lot of us are now. My household was literally just Fox News all the time.
Even though Brooke prefaces this apology by saying that she doesn't want to make excuses or pass the blame, she is heavily referencing who she was raised by and what her home was like to sort of explain why her views could have been this way in her late teens.
It wasn't until like even after college that I really started to like shift my way of thinking. I think it's amazing now that people are like learning earlier on about politics and like forming their own opinions outside of like what their parents think or what they're hearing or whatever it is. But that just wasn't the case for me.
Do you guys think that Brooke providing context here is important? Do you think that she's trying to make excuses, or is she providing an explanation to her surroundings and showing what might have affected her opinions at that time?
Very, very sorry to anybody who is hurt by the tweets. Why would I even say that? And I apologize for not having said something sooner. I just felt like I was getting these messages from people who like were hurt by them, and I felt like by bringing more attention to it, I was just going to be hurting more people.
When she says that she should have said something sooner, I'm wondering if she means during the week that those tweets were circulating, or if she means months or even years ago. If the latter is the case, I find it very hard to believe that any influencer or YouTuber would bring forward these past tweets themselves.
Obviously, I know that there are some people who are just like not gonna care for me anymore. Like, I understand that. I need you to know that like is not how I think, that is not what I believe, and I am 27 years old now. I've had so much time to like learn and grow and like formulate my own opinions. They are nothing like they were when I was 17, 18 years old.
TikTok's reaction wasn't at all positive for this initial apology or explanation, whatever you want to call it. Some users said, "Hey girl, so this is insane and seen. I like your afro." Another user said, "Is this all of it? Like the whole apology?" When the explanation is longer than the apology. And then there were also people that were surprised that this was going on till after college. After the reaction was mainly this way, basically saying that Brooke wasn't providing an actual apology, but rather a fluffed up explanation, Brooke took to TikTok once more to try again.
Now, sorry is not enough, in my opinion. I know that there's no apology beyond like reparations that can mend that wound. I don't care if I was a teenager, I was old enough to know better. I chose to say those things on a public platform, and I am very, very ashamed of it. The tweets were racist. Okay, there's no getting around that. It was racism.
Brooke explains that she rushed her first response to the situation because she felt that she had to put something out there. Thus, it came off as super emotional and rather flat.
Put all this emphasis on my family thinking it was gonna like provide context. It just made it look like I was pointing fingers and like placing blame. Nobody forced me to tweet those things. I tweeted those things on my own. A conscious choice to not learn about politics, but that did not stop me from tweeting political opinions, spreading harmful misinformation.
A vast majority of the comments on Brooke's re-apology video point out that Trayvon Martin was also a teenager, basically telling her that her teenage self was ignorant and privileged while the other side of the story was oppressed.
I repeated disgusting misinformation on a public platform, and I'm genuinely so disturbed by that. I truly cannot believe it. It wasn't until after college that I realized how prevalent police brutality is and how common hate crimes are. It's constantly happening.
Brooke's main point is that she was intentionally ignorant, avoiding educating herself on these issues until after George Floyd's murder and the BLM movement took flight.
I don't plan to stop learning about these issues ever. I do care about these issues. I don't want this conversation to be over, honestly. I'm not posting this video to make everything go away. I don't want to try to get myself uncanceled. I want to do everything that I can to show you that I am not the person that I was. I am not.
Brooke was responding to comments for a while, but has since gone a bit quiet on the matter. I did see through the grapevine somewhere that Brooke had allegedly begun blocking people for, quote, her own peace. I can't confirm or deny that, but that's the word on the street. Should that be true, surely just putting her phone down would be a better option instead of blocking and silencing people. Bestie Tana Mongeau commented on one of Brooke's apology videos soon after saying, "We grew up bad. I love you, and growth from it is the biggest form of prevailing," which is quite the contrast to what we want to dive into today. As I mentioned before, we were waiting with bated breath to see what the girls were going to say on the podcast, but surprisingly, we just got Tana on this week.
Obviously, as you guys can see, I am alone on this couch. Brooke is not here with us today, and I want to be abundantly clear that that was my decision. We all saw the tweets, and they're fucked up and they're horrific, and I'm saying that as a white person. Cannot even imagine being a black non-fan or fan and reading those tweets.
Tana says that it isn't her place to forgive Brooke, and she's speaking as a white person that could not begin to understand the pain felt by seeing Brooke's tweets. She also addresses the comments that we just mentioned.
Regretted it so hard. Realized how fucking stupid it was for me to fucking say that. I'm going to beat myself up for that forever, quite frankly. It's not enough to just write these things off as we grew up bad, and I think that I learned that now, and that shows me that I still have things to learn and unlearn.
She apologizes for that comment and says that she isn't a perfect person. Of course, since all of this has come to light and Tana and Brooke are intertwined in such a way on the internet, there was next to no possible way that Tana was going to be able to avoid coming under scrutiny as well. Again, as we all know, Tana has had her own past with racist comments. She doesn't avoid addressing this during this speech.
I do think that I've grown so much as a person from who I was in those tweets at that time. I know that there's always more growing for me to do, and that's why I wanted to talk about this today.
She claims that there was no way she couldn't say something at the start of this week's podcast, as that would be an example of her using her own white privilege to avoid these things.
I'm hoping Brooke is taking the time right now to reflect and grow and learn in a lot of the ways that I did.
Now listen, I know there's almost no way that this can be handled without us picking apart the words that Tana and Brooke are going to say. However, I'm not sure that it's entirely fair for Tana to sit there and say, "I hope Brooke is learning and reflecting like I did," when she literally just talked about her comment on Brooke's post and how that itself was ignorant and hurtful. That was just days ago. If we're talking about Tana's past and how she's grown from that, sure, okay, whatever, but clearly we are still making mistakes, Tana. So that specific sentence about hoping that Brooke is doing this like I did, it's giving a high horse a little bit.
She is my co-host, right? And in all of that time that we worked together, I never once saw or heard her exhibit any behaviors that, or words or anything that align with those tweets. And if I did, I wouldn't be sitting here saying any of this right now. We would have never made it this far. I would have cut her off fucking immediately.
Tana says that she is donating all of the proceeds from this week's episode of the Cancelled podcast, as well as her TikTok creator fund, to the Trayvon Martin Foundation.
I'm just really sorry to anyone that is hurt from this. And again, I don't want to speak on Brooke's behalf, but I sat on this couch with her, and for that, I feel that I have to say that. I love you guys so much.
I hopped over to X to see the public opinion on what Tana had to say, and people are not impressed, honestly. One user said, "Brooke Schofield being effectively kicked off the Cancelled podcast is insane. I thought the whole point of the podcast was that cancelable people had cancelable guests on the show to talk about cancelable things. Tana Mongeau should be a better friend to her friends. Another user said, it's crazy that Tana Mongeau just kicked Brooke Schofield off her podcast for the same thing. The hypocrisy in white women is so funny to me. White women are the most privileged people in the world right now, yet are uncancelable. And lastly, one user said, Brooke Schofield is 100% in the wrong, obviously, but the audacity of Tana to throw her under the bus and act all righteous about it like she hasn't said racial slurs. The opinion over on TikTok isn't much better, honestly. Even big fans of Tana's are criticizing her move here.
I know damn good and well I did not just log onto this app on this glorious Sunday morning and see Miss Tana Mongeau, whom I've been watching on YouTube since I was like 11 years old, get on the Cancelled podcast, not only condemning Brooke's tweets, which, okay, but also having the golden gumption to say that it was her decision not to have Brooke on the podcast this week because of the tweets. You know that I can get on this app right now and find the video of you calling Amari the hard R and word to this day, but you're gonna be a hypocrite and throw your friend under the bus because the internet's mad at you this week? I can't respect that. I have watched y'all become thick as thieves, watched everything that y'all have been through, and then you now, because the internet's mad at you, you're gonna throw your friend under the bus and be a fucking hypocrite.
The remainder of this week's Cancelled podcast post Tana's speech went like normal, just without Brooke. Tana was joined by boyfriend Makoa and friend Paige. We are not yet sure if this is a permanent change for the Cancelled podcast or if Brooke will be returning, but at this point, all we can do is wait. As always, we would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below on this, but for now, I bleach and we'll see you in the next one.